So I like to start with the bulletin board blank, except for the titles. And actually, I think what I've done most years is I'll have this poster, but I won't have these titles in these boxes yet, and we'll roll out one at a time, because I feel like, I mean, even now at the end of the year, with some of my students, I'll be like, so what? They'll be like, I'm inferring, and I'll be like, what does that mean again? And then they'll be like, it means to say what's going to happen before you mean like prediction? But it's actually a little different from prediction, and so there's still some confusion. So I feel like what's important is to make sure to roll it out one at a time and be very explicit. So we like to start with asking questions, because that's a kind of an easy sort of a gateway metacognitive thinking strategy that they can use. Because a reader naturally asks questions. We joke around about how even if you just say, if you're reading along and you're like, what the? Like, that's an example of your brain engaging and pondering and like raising a red flag and saying, something's going on, this is important. That's a metacognitive thinking strategy right there. So that's a good one that I can start them on. And then from there we kind of branch out, and I kind of try to roll them out one at a time and explicitly teach them in a mini lesson. Some of them take several mini lessons. And then, I use visual aids like this determined importance one, has the colander. We keep the noodles, but we let a lot of the other stuff kind of drain away and decide what's important, what's worth keeping. And then practice them. And if I notice that there's one that doesn't have as many cards, like synthesizing information, I might try to encourage that in a follow-up mini lesson and say, hey, I've got some extra pink cards. As we continue our research on fossils and science, if anybody is able to synthesize an understanding both from this text and from our field trip to Dinosaur Ridge, then let's write those down, because that's a great example of synthesis, So I'm really trying to connect it with what's actually happening in their lives. We had another example in science yesterday. We were reading about fossils, and in the textbook it kept saying that the researchers had to infer from minimal bone remains or from fossil remains what type of animal it was, where on the animal that bone went. Was this animal two-legged or four-legged? Did it walk on all 4 feet? And then also, did it eat meat? Trying to infer these things just from a few scant fossil remains. And the kids were really excited, like, oh, inference, inferring, oh, we know about that. So it's cool to try to connect it to something that's real instead of just abstract lecturing. Yeah.
So my name's Elijah, and I'm going to explain the metacognitive thinking strategies and how they help us in our reading. So the first one I'm going to share is ask questions. That is when we ask questions about the text and how they can help us explain what's happening in the story and the characteristics. The second one I'm going to share is evoke sensory images. That's when you can imagine what's happening in the book and draw pictures in your mind of what's happening without actually drawing. You can actually picture what's happening in your mind. The third one I'm going to share is activate schema. That's when you can share your idea about something you already know, something that you looked up before, you already know the answer to the question that's similar. The last one I'm going to share is draw inferences. That's when you can make a picture in your mind of without the text giving, if you can make a picture in your mind without the text giving you the picture that you can picture in your mind. You can actually picture what's happening in the book in your mind without thinking about it. You can use them for reading. You can use them for math, literacy, science, and yeah.